You're listening to Crystal and Emily on Love Your Shelf, the best librarian podcast in the extensive and highly competitive field of librarian podcasts.
Oh, hello.
Hello there.
I've got a friend sitting next to me today.
Oh.
Bonjour.
Oh! Today we have with us Jeffrey J. Murray of the Nacogdoches Public Library, but also of many other entities.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. A lot of things. All the things.
I think that sums it up.
Yeah. For the most part.
Well, we're very happy to have you both at the library and on podcast today.
Yes. It's good to be here.
So, as usual, I have my long list of books and movies and other fun stuff. But today I'm doing this separately from you. I'm at home. So I do want to, put a little warning out there that my dog, Pocket, does not like for me to talk on the phone for some reason. And apparently she sees this as me talking on the phone.
Was that just her chiming in?
Yes.
He was like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So hopefully she'll keep it to that level of volume, but there is no telling. So
it is entertaining, I will say, when she does decide to make a vocal appearance, if that's even a thing.
I'm hoping that she keeps it down a little bit. Right now, she's content with chewing on my fingers. So
okay. Yeah, whatever it takes.
Yeah, it's a pacifier at this point. And I also, since I'm doing this from home, it's a little bit more noisy, and I think my neighbor is moving every piece of furniture that she owns.
Well, yeah, naturally.
Right, up against the wall that we share. So just, if you hear anything like that, don't be alarmed.
We should just cut all of this out and be like, we're adding some new sound effects to the podcast today.
So yes, we can totally do that.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. We're just working on our variety here.
That's right. So what you got for us?
Well, I want to start out too by mentioning that we're in the middle of the big read, and that we've already started all of our super cool events, and that tomorrow we've got seed swap, we've got the poetry workshop, and we just have all kinds of stuff going on. So be sure that everybody's following us. You can follow us on Facebook, but if you're not into Facebook, all that stuff is on our website and on all the other community calendars.
Even an activity guide will do.
Yes. Yeah. If you're technophobic, get the piece of paper.
That's right.
So it's all out there. And Jay can, attest to the work that goes into the seed swap in the seed library.
Oh, it's super easy. No, it's challenging. Just trying to get all of the get everything together and make sure that we have like a huge variety of seeds for people to kind of choose from. But also fall is very important. Like fall is a great time to plant things. From a commercial I heard today. So it's like having people coming over and get little things, and there's some of that stuff that you don't necessarily need to have outdoors,
right?
Which is really cool.
Yes.
And it's just so many things. I think I might go and buy some seeds and do some swapping myself.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
The library will do that to you because we're always doing a bunch of different things, and so we uncover our own new hobbies all the time.
That's right. We're just that committed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just get used to it. So I want to start off with, of course, this is Love Your Shelf. So we always start with and I'm going to start with a little author spotlight for two different authors whose entire oeuvre I love, well, I got to throw out some French terms every once in a while.
Always.
And the first is Siri Hustvedt. I've talked about her before. And she writes very widely. She writes fiction, but she also writes nonfiction, like art criticism and cultural criticism. But her first few novels are what really caught my attention, what really inspired me to follow her. And the first one that I read was called The Enchantment of Lily Dahl, and Dahl doll. But there is a confusion of that kind of, as the name doll with the being of a Doll doll.
Yes. Okay, love it.
And a lot of her books have a sort of a theme of voyeurism, maybe, but like this kind of being a part of a community, but there's mysterious things going on that you don't really understand, and
I
it's
can relate.
Yeah, exactly. We live that,
part of a community, don't understand a lot of what's going on, mysterious happenings. Yes.
And then she's also written What I Loved and The Blazing World, both of which are about artists. They're both fiction, but they're about she writes descriptions of the art that the artists make in the books in such a beautiful way that it's like they're really living. Like you can really picture them.
Yeah, that seems like it wouldn't be an easy feat. Like if you asked me to write a paragraph describing some art, you wouldn't feel like you're looking at the art. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, it's got to be something that's dynamic and evocative, not just kind of describing like the colors or the patterns.
It's in a frame. Right.
She also happens to be the wife of Paul Auster, who's long been one of my favorite authors. Obviously, Pocket loves
Pocket's
her.
a huge fan.
Huge fan. And the other author almost could not be more different from her, but I love him just the same, or at least his early work, and that's Neil Stephenson. And he is one of the founders, essentially, of the cyberpunk genre. He and William Gibson are probably the best known for that genre. And so the first book that I read of his was a book called Snow Crash, and it came out like in the early 90s, so going all the way back to that point. And it's about a character named Hero Protagonist. And it takes place in the metaverse, so it's like this like hackers and computer viruses and all of this kind of stuff. And if you're into that kind of thing, and if you're into that kind of thing and you haven't read Neil Stephenson, where have you been? I don't know.
Go read Neil Stephenson.
Exactly. So those two, Siri Hustvedt, Neil Stephenson. See, she loves it, and I love it.
She can't make up her mind.
Right.
Which one she loves more.
Exactly. So then I think the rest of the books that I want to mention, I'm going to just talk about briefly, because they're all coming out maybe after the first of the year or even later. And so, yeah, I'm caught up in my galleys right now. So
so you got to get us excited, but not like so excited we can't wait another day.
Right.
So excited we can wait a few months.
Exactly. Temper your excitement. And the first one is by Victoria Schwab. And she has written several sci-fi fantasy novels under V.E. Schwab. But this one is called Gallant. And it very much reminds me of a couple of the books that I recently reviewed by Shannon McGuire, like Every Heart a Doorway. It's about a young woman who grows up in this school for girls, but there's this alternative universe that she uncovers, you know.
I like that.
Yeah. And there's been a lot, like the Peculiar Home, or the Home for Peculiar Children. It's kind of like its own genre at this point.
Yeah, I like that. I like that genre.
Yeah. And so I would recommend it. She's a great writer, and this is kind of a different theme than her previous books.
Right.
Another one that I'm super excited about is called The Woman in the Library, of course. We always have a library book, I think.
By Crystal Hicks.
Exactly. One of these days. And it's by Sulari Gentile. I've never read her before. But this one takes place in the Boston Public Library, which has this really elaborate, beautiful reading room.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of takes place in this room. Everybody's just kind of doing their thing, researching, studying, and then there's a woman scream.
Ah! I love it. I love it so much.
And so
Pocket screams at that moment.
She really does know what we're saying. So
I know.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
She's like punctuation.
Uh-huh.
That should be her name instead of Pocket. Exclamation point.
Make that her middle name.
Yeah. And so after the scream, the security guards tell everybody, stay put. We've got to figure out what's going on. And so 4 people who don't know each other, who just happen to be sitting at the same table, kind of strike up a conversation. And just so happens that one of them has something to hide.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. So it's a great thriller. Any thrillers that take place in the library, you gotta love that.
Yes, absolutely.
The library can be a very dark, mysterious, and dangerous place.
Yeah, I mean, happy and lovely and joyful also, but
yes. When I say that it's a dark, mysterious, and dangerous place, I mean only in our own minds and in fiction.
I don't know. I think that we kind of covered the full scale.
Right.
If you love not knowing what to expect, come to the library.
I guess especially in October. I think we're just getting ready for Halloween now.
Yeah. It has been an eventful week at the library.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We'll we like to we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Let's just skip that.
The next book that is actually just came out, so it actually is out, and you can get your mitts on it, is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. And
I think I love the title. I can't decide. Continue.
It reminds me of there's some other authors who kind of do that with like Black Swan Green, and it's just like, okay, you're just putting together
just some
words.
Sounds and words.
Yeah. But Anthony Doerr also wrote All the Light We Cannot See, which was hugely popular a few years ago. Everybody read it. And so I have a feeling that this one people are going to be rushing to get a hold of.
Lining up.
Yeah. And so this is about a young girl, an orphan, who lives inside Constantinople. And she learns to read, which was not common. She lives in a home where the women make the robes of priests.
Oh, huh.
And but she learns to read. She finds a book, and Constantinople was famous for its libraries, so we've got that theme going here again.
Cool.
And she, from that point, kind of gets in adventures. We'll just put it that way.
I love how big this is.
Yes.
I mean, I'm intrigued, truly.
We'll give you a little more detail. So 500 years later, there's another story going on.
Cool.
And there's, again, in a library, there is a bomb planted by a troubled teenager. Yes.
Oh, no. Goodness me.
So, always fraught in the library, I guess. But yes, that one, nobody's going to need my recommendation for that one because everybody's going to read it because it's by Anthony Doerr. The next book is called Countries That Don't Exist, Selected Nonfiction. And this is by, and I'm going to try to pronounce it. It's a Russian name.
Okay, go girl.
There's
got your back.
Multiple Z's in this name.
Okay, yep.
All right.
Sigismund Krzyzanowski.
Beautifully done.
So Simon Chrysanthemum.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Thank
you. Sweet. I got close.
Well, he can't be offended because he's no longer living.
Okay.
Oh.
Unless he's into haunting.
There we go.
I mean,
dun dun dun. I think that just needs. That's gonna be the sound effect, like this entire thing.
We're gonna need that every week. Just so
you might have to join in from here on out.
I'm with it. I'll bring my little sound little device.
Oh my gosh,
little
yes.
sound effects.
Oh, I'd love it.
That'd be dope. Awesome.
I think I would just only focus on the sound effects. I'm sorry.
It just devolves into us sound effecting at each other.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. That's it. It's all sound effects.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So sorry. Continue.
This poor guy, Siggy, we'll call him. Siggy was not known as a writer during his lifetime, or almost unknown. But now he's hailed as a master of Russian literature.
Nice.
And so these pieces are a selection of his nonfiction, which goes all over the place. Some of it is more like almost fantasy bordering. There's also like this fresh look at what's going on in that part of the world in the 20s and 30s. And so there's, cultural commentary there too. And so it's very exciting.
Cool.
That this is a collection that's coming out.
Good for Siggy.
Yeah. And then the last book that I'll mention is another one that's not coming out yet until January, but it's called Violetta, and it's by Isabel Allende, who's obviously a famous writer. Her most recent, I think, or one of the most recent, is A Long Petal of the Sea, which was widely acclaimed. And this book is about a girl who is born in 1920, and so the World War I is just over, and she's in South America, and then the Spanish flu begins to become an issue, and Pocket does not like the Spanish flu.
He's like, I hate the Spanish flu.
Don't we all? And so her father, the girl's father, kind of foresees that this is going to be a horrible crisis, and they dodge the bullet of that, only to then come up against the Great Depression. And so so Allende is always she's a classic, so gotta read those. And so everybody's excited, but this one's coming out in January.
Cool.
And then I'll talk about some books and TV shows. But first, I want to give a little recommendation for an app called Likewise. And I love Goodreads. I used it for years and years. But Likewise is something I just started using, and it asks you to rate books, TV, movies, podcasts, that kind of thing. And then it gives you recommendations.
Oh, cool.
And so far, has really targeted, or has really landed on good recommendations for me for like TV shows.
Nice.
And but the books are maybe a little more hit and miss.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Pocket, we know. And I think that might be because my taste in books is kind of all over the place. So
yeah. Well, it's funny because I've been pulling books for the library and counter boxes. They'll be ready later today. But I was thinking about that, just how you can say you love mysteries, but woo, that's a pretty wide array there.
That's huge. There's so many. There's the the cozy mysteries where even though there's a murder, it doesn't seem like anything bad ever happens.
Yeah, everyone's still like weirdly happy and calm. But then you have the other end of the spectrum where,
like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and really dark stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's just funny that you bring that up because I've had the same thought.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those things that, the more that you use it, the better it's going to get to know you.
Right.
And hopefully the better the recommendations will be. So
cool, yeah.
So I think everybody should check it out and let us know how it works for you.
Yeah, I think I will.
All right. So I recently watched a movie, which is unusual for me because I've just been kind of getting away from that and watching more series. And so I watched Blithe Spirit, which is on Showtime. And and it's based on a play. It's set in London in 1937, and stars Judi Dench as a medium.
Amazing.
And Dan Stevens as a wealthy man whose first wife died in a car crash, and is about to get married to his second wife, or just recently married to his second wife. And the medium that they're kind of playing around, they think it's funny, that this silly old lady is, putting on this show, and they're kind of laughing about it. But she succeeds in bringing back the ghost of his first wife.
Nice.
And so it's kind of broad comedy. There's like some slapstick stuff.
Cool.
But it's Dan Stevens from Downton Abbey who it really has a comedic turn in this. He's really funny.
Oh, he is. Like, I'm trying to think what else I've seen him in where I was because Downton Abbey was like my introduction to him. But anyway, I'm a fan.
Yes. So Blithe Spirit, it's dark, but also lighthearted. It's a very by Noel Coward, so it's very hard line, I think, to ride, but it does it perfectly.
Love that.
And I started, but I kind of got bored with The Mosquito Coast, and it's on Apple Plus.
Okay.
And stars Justin Theroux and Melissa George. And it's based on a book that came out in 1981. But then there was a movie in 1988 starring Harrison Ford by the same name. Okay. Also, Helen Mirren and River Phoenix are in that movie. And it's a great film. It was highly acclaimed. And so I'm not sure why they want to make it into a television series. But
I hate that. I hate when because there are other, works that I'm like, that would make a great movie, or you could make a series out of that. But instead they're going to redo something that's already, I don't know, had a shot.
With Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren,
Right. I mean, I'm not I would not argue with that. So
yeah.
Okay. But yeah.
So I started it. I watched the first episode, and it's about a father who takes his family deep into the jungle to kind of live off the grid and for personal, political type reasons. And it's based on a true story. And so, I mean, I'm hoping that it's going to be good. I'm willing to give it a shot because it's a good
story.
But I hadn't heard anybody talking about it, so I wanted to bring it up and see if it was on anybody else's radar.
And you said that was Apple TV?
Apple Plus, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Then I watched in one weekend the whole series, which is 7 episodes of Midnight Mass, which
I want to hear about that.
Yes, I won't go into a whole lot. Have you watched any of it yet?
No, I just watched the little clip that they show on Netflix, like when you are hovering over it. And it was a very unsettling little conversation. Like the scene was, do you know what scene I'm talking about, Crystal?
I don't know what the clip was, but
I don't know.
It's
like a guy, I guess, who's a sheriff or something, and he's talking to this woman in like a back room or like a storage closet about like some animals that had been poisoned, and she's like, how strange. Are you accusing me of doing that? If you were, yeah, like it was just it was really weird and unsettling. But is it made by the same people who made like Haunting on Hill House?
Yes.
Okay, because I knew there were some of the same actors involved.
Yes, and yes, Henry Thomas is almost unrecognizable. He plays older, and also I can't think of the actress's name, but the female lead is also one of the female leads in those films.
Okay.
And it is the tone, the pacing, and kind of the feel of it is very, very similar to those movies, which I really enjoyed. I loved those films. This one is kind of centered around essentially a church. So it's heavy on religion. And Hamish Linklater plays a priest who comes to this island. It's an island town, so it's very, very small, very isolated. You have to take an hour-long ferry to get there from the mainland, kind of thing.
Dang.
And so he comes and he's replacing the old priest at the parish who went on a trip to Europe and became ill and never, didn't return. So this young guy shows up and things start happening.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I thought was funny about it is that all the people kind of wear like, it's set in a contemporary setting, but they're all wearing like these dumpy kind of clothes that are kind of 80s vibes. And I don't know if it's like, and the Haunting on Hill House too, I think was kind of a little bit like that in some parts, where it's kind of trying to be kind of timeless in a sense, like not really dating itself.
Yeah.
And so I kind of thought that was the whole time I was like, when is this taking place?
Could that also just be like we live on an island far away from everything?
Yeah, we don't get the new stuff out here.
We don't know. Yeah.
Yes, that could totally be part of it. But the whole time I was like, did I miss something? Is this supposed to be set in 1982?
Oh my gosh, yes.
But it is definitely unique. There's some pretty big surprises.
Oh my goodness.
And it's also kind of similar to some of the things we've talked about recently, where this new series, like a limited series, where it's really just like a long movie.
Yes.
Because they just take a really long time. Like the first several episodes, it's just setting the scene. Nothing really happens. A few things that are kind of mildly unsettling, but not scary.
Keep you entertained and keep you involved. But
yes,
okay.
But very talky. There's lots of characters walking on the beach and discussing stuff. And but
that's a genre all of its own.
I guess so. But yeah, I thought that it was definitely worth it, and I was definitely keyed into it and watched it all.
Cool. Yeah.
One after the other. So
yeah, I because what was it? Haunting at Hill House, and what was the other one?
I never can remember.
It was like a manor or something. It was
right.
Involved.
It's basically the same title,
right? But with a manor instead.
Yeah.
But no, I like those a lot. I feel like they're about as scary as I like to go. Like I, you know what I mean? Like they're creepy and scary, but they're not totally disgusting, I guess.
Yeah, there's more of that in this series.
Okay, well, good to know. I'll just make sure Nick is in the room so I can hide my eyes and he can tell me what happened.
It's always good to have that person there for you.
Yeah, that buffer.
Yeah, so I recommend it. And, since we're getting into Halloween mode, very, very fitting. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then I started Made, which is a limited series on Netflix. So Maid, MAID.
Okay, yeah.
And I knew absolutely nothing about it going in. But it's one of those that's, I think, picked up quite a big following.
You're right.
And it stars Andie MacDowell and her daughter, Margaret Qualley, who I didn't realize was her daughter until this.
Okay.
But she was in The Leftovers and quite a few other.
Oh, wait, is it like the
teenage daughter in The Leftovers?
Oh, no way. Okay, cool. Good to know.
And so it opens very quietly with this woman who's, in bed, and she's looking at the man laying next to her, and she gets up and kind of dresses quietly. She goes into a nursery, picks up the baby, and then as she's walking out, it shows these like close-up shots of evidence of domestic violence, basically.
Oh, okay.
And so she takes the baby, gets in a car, and then looks up, and the man is in the driveway, and she drives off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so she goes to her mother for help, and her mother is played by her actual mother, Andie MacDowell, and she's a wacky, but not in a fun way, artist. And so yeah, and so it's kind of basically it's a cultural critique of not just domestic violence survivors or people who are trying to become survivors, but just like how our system is kind of against these people. Who she goes and she tries to get assistance, tries to get into a safe house, but she won't. She says that he hasn't been physically violent with her, so they can't do anything about that.
Got it.
And if they can't do anything about that, she can't have a place to stay unless she has a job, and then she can't have a job because she has a child, and it's just, I watched the first episode, but it was too harrowing for me to continue at this moment.
I don't know if that's the kind of thing I need to be watching right now, so
yeah. On the eve of your wedding.
Yeah. Thank you for telling me about it, though. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I am glad that Andie MacDowell's still doing her thing.
Oh, yeah. And the acting is great. And the story, may be as well. But I just, in that moment, I was just a little, didn't want to watch that.
Yeah, no, definitely fair enough.
Be in a certain mood for it.
Yeah. There's a lot of things like that are great stories, really well told, and I think also put a spotlight on things that we don't think about all the time too. But sometimes you need a little lightness.
Yeah, you got to take care of yourself too.
Yeah. And so because of that, I went looking for something else and came across a series. It's actually 2 seasons in, and never heard of it. It's on Apple Plus. I'm new to the Apple Plus, I guess. So.
I know. I gotta get with it, man.
Yeah, but it's called Mythic Quest, and it stars Rob McElhenney, and it's one of the producers is Charlie Day, and that's the guys from
It's Always Sunny.
It's Always Sunny, yeah.
Yes.
And so so there's a little bit of that vibe, but it's not as outrageous as that.
Yes. Well, I like that because I really like It's Always Sunny, but at times it is a little outrageous for me, so I'm listening.
Yeah. Jay, have you watched either of those? Have you seen those?
I have not. No, I'm still recovering from the last thing that I binged.
Oh, you're gonna have to bust that out for us in a second, but
yeah, I will.
Well, and because I always felt like It's Always Sunny was, and I've maybe even said this before, was like my generation's Seinfeld in a way.
Yeah.
Like they're all terrible people in a way, and
not in a way, they're
terrible people. Yeah, each in their own way, I'll say.
Yes.
Just sort of like wanting to kind of wanting the world to work according to them, which I mean, we're all sort of guilty of, but when you're a kind of a terrible person, you want the world to be as terrible as you are.
And sometimes it just becomes like that because
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, so I think I like that idea though, because again, It's Always Sunny, a little outrageous at times. So
yeah. Well, this one is it kind of starts out in a similar place and tone as Silicon Valley. You know that show on HBO?
Yeah.
And so it's about this game, like a massive multiplayer online game.
Cool.
Mythic Quest, you know. And so it kind of, the Rob McElhenney plays the founder of this game, but then there's, all the people who do the coding, and then there's the people who are doing the marketing, and it's, like all of these really very different jobs and outlooks that all have to come together to make this product work, And so it's like multiple years into this being one of the biggest games ever. And, so it was interesting. And then episode 5, it's like goes to a completely different story, to completely different characters. Who like get together in the 90s, and they create this game that reminds me of an early indie game that I've mentioned before, The Darkest Eye.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I can't think of what the show calls it, but it's like the Killing Dark or something. I don't know. It's like an indie game that you can't win. You're gonna die in it, and it's focused on storytelling and puzzles. But then as it gets popular, they try to morph it into this first-person shooter, like running kind of thing.
Right.
And the creators of that don't want that, and it kind of follows how their ideas get polluted. And
so does it like cut back to the original story?
Yes. So it starts with them in the 90s, follows what happens with them, and then brings it up to present day, and then kind of ties it into the story. So
got it.
But it was a really surprising, move, I thought, and kept me really intrigued. And it was, the storylines couldn't be more different, the tone couldn't be more different, but it's all still on this like behind the scenes world of gaming. And
neat, man. Good for the It's Always Sunny guys. I'll call them that. Good for them.
Yeah, exactly. So Jay, what's your latest binge watching experience?
I unfortunately I took the bait and I got roped into Squid Game.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh.
Earlier this week I was up till 4:00 in the morning, 2 nights in a row. Like literally watching it until like my eyes couldn't stay open anymore. I just couldn't get away from it.
Yeah.
It was when it first started, I was just kind of like, okay, this is what put me off was the overdubs, because it's all in Korean.
Right.
And sometimes the overdubs just sound just weird.
Yeah.
So you've got the English overdubs, but then I also have the closed captioning on that.
Naturally.
And what the overdubs were saying was different from what was written on the
that
screen.
makes me crazy. I'll usually end up just watching it with subtitles. It
was kind of confusing, but it was a lot.
Yeah,
it was a lot, but it totally summed up human nature and society. And how incredibly dependent on money we are.
What you'll do for it.
When you're desperate, the lengths that you'll go through to get out of debt, really, for the most part.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I put that one on my list when I watched the clip, but I have not been able to bring myself to watch it. It looks like I need to be in a pretty particular mood to watch it.
It's so. Are either of you like fans of like Halloween time, watching Halloween movies? And
Yeah,
stuff like that?
totally.
Like scary stuff or suspenseful stuff.
Like
I like both more than Emily, I think.
Definitely. Like I'm a little bit more. I don't like graphic violence, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm able to put up with more than I think I can.
There's a lot of graphic violence in this.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of in that way where like if it's so much, you're sort of you kind of become immune to it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I can weirdly handle stuff like that. But
yeah, and I think the best thing that that my wife could have done was like check out within the first 20 minutes of us watching it. And then she was just like, I think she went to bed and she was like, hey, that's just going to be your show. I'm not interested.
Right.
I'm glad she did, because she would have, by the end of the episode, she would have been very upset.
Yeah.
Very upset because it's not her thing. She watches Disney Channel and Lifetime movies, stuff like that. So usually if it doesn't have a happy ending, she's upset for like a week.
Right.
It's like
I'm intrigued, but I have not started it because all the reviews that I hear are like, oh wow, this is just beyond.
Really?
But I've seen a lot of films that have been reviewed that way that, so
that are still fun to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I will still watch it at some point. But I don't know. I've been traumatized by some Korean horror films. They're not playing around.
They're not. No.
Well,
the most recent of those, I think, was Parasite. If y'all have seen that,
I have not seen Parasite, but Nick, like every time we scroll past it on Hulu, he's like, "We should watch Parasite," because he watched it and really loved it, and for some reason, again, I know it's going to be intense. And so I'm like bracing myself for that.
Yeah.
But what I thought was so funny about Squid Games, like it's so bright and colorful and they have been playing these like children's games. It almost reminded me of like, I mean, I'm a 90s kid. Are you guys familiar at all with the game or with the game show from Nickelodeon, Figure It Out? Or like it reminded me of things like that, like game show, like Nickelodeon game shows, but like death. So
if you better win, or advance, or you get eliminated, like for real.
That first
that's the whole premise.
The clip that I saw was, again, it was the one that they show on Netflix. When you scroll over it, they're playing Red Light, Green Light. Oh, yeah.
That's game number 1.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And people, oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. It literally, if you're going to get to the end of the first episode and you're literally going to like sit there for a second trying to process what you just witnessed.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then and that's going to hook you. I'm telling you. It's gonna suck you in.
It reminds me of the way that you're describing it. Reminds me of this indie film back in the 90s called Cube. And it's like this group of people wakes up and they're inside this like structure that's a series of interlocking cubes, and it's kind of the same thing. They don't know why they're there or if it's some kind of game or whatever, but they it's deadly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is on its way to being the most watched Netflix series in history.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That is crazy.
And it just came out like less than 2 weeks ago.
What?
It's huge.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't think it looks good and I'm intrigued and all of that, but wow, like of all time.
It's just because of all the parallels between like what they're talking about and like what they're taking pretty much, it's a commentary on society.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and how we are and how greedy we are and just how we look down on people who have less, and then, we tend to idolize and put on a pedestal people who have more, and like, that's, they're doing it. It's in a very dark way.
Yeah.
A very dark way.
I know I'm going to end up watching it, but
Yeah, I will too. I just can't decide if I should do it before or after I'm finished planning my wedding. Like, do I need to go there?
Let it be a good distraction.
That's what I was about to say. It could very potentially be a good distraction.
Mhm.
So,
yeah.
if I do start it and I come to work real tired one day,
I'll be
y'all
like-
be sweet to me.
I'll be like, I'll hand you a Red Bull. Be like,
That's right.
Squid Game, huh? I get it.
That's right. Well, cool. I am so glad you brought that up, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I've been real curious about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just make a little bit of time just to watch the first episode,
Cool.
and then decide from that point on if it's too much for you or if it's like, okay, I kind of want to see what the next game is.
Yeah, no, because I mean, it also kind of gives me like Hunger Games feels. Yeah. Anyway,
I mean, that's essentially only one person can win this game.
comes out alive.
Yeah,
and it's a yeah.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, the last couple of things that I want to mention are podcasts.
Okay, cool.
And the first one is one that's new to me, although I've been a follower of the subreddit for a long time, and it's No Sleep.
You've told me about it.
Yeah, and so there's a podcast of it, No Sleep podcast, and it's scary stories basically, but it's been around for I think at least a decade, and many of the people who have submitted stories to the subreddit went on to publish them, and so yeah, and they are scary and they're unsettling, and but they're also all submitted, by the Redditors, so it's hit and miss too,
Sure.
which then ties into my other recommendation, which is Radio Rental, which we've talked about a bunch of times.
I was about to ask, are there more episodes out?
Yes, there's one that dropped today.
I'm so excited.
So yeah, but they released a couple of them a week or two ago. I was not super excited by those.
Oh man.
But when I saw that there was another episode that just dropped today, I was like, okay, well, I know I'm going to spend my evening, or at least part of it.
Yeah.
Because there's been so many of them that are still just good stories to tell,
Like you and I have talked about some of them multiple times, and each time we do, it's like we haven't talked about it before.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's we've mentioned before, it's set up in this way where Rainn Wilson plays this video store character guy who is pretty silly.
Yeah, it's pretty corny.
But then these stories are told as if they're like calling into a radio show, and so there's this whole like apparatus, but really it's just people telling stories, and some of them they purport to be true. Some of them, you can kind of assume, well, I guess they all are supposed to have truth to them, but
I need to know how much for some of these, because yeah, there
are some really wild ones. So if you haven't listened to that, definitely do. But do know that for me, podcasts in particular, even more than like watching a movie or something, I think this is maybe odd. Maybe you'll have the same experience, but when I'm listening to something with my earpods, it's somehow more not just intimate, but it's like in your head a little bit.
Yes.
And I don't know, do you have that experience too?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because
go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I was earlier, Emily asked me if there was anything I was currently reading, and I was just like, girl, I don't read. But I actually do, kind of, because I was, what was it, last year when Mariah Carey's book came out, her memoir.
Oh yeah.
And so my best friend gifted it to me, an audiobook. And so I would sit out in the morning with my AirPods and drink my coffee and go through the day with my AirPods in and listen to Mariah Carey telling me about her life. And it's literally sounded like I felt like I was on the phone with Mariah Carey.
Yes.
I just wasn't talking back.
Right.
Right. But yeah, it's a lot more intimate when you have those in.
Yeah. I always like especially when I lived in New York, I had my earphones in everywhere I went.
Mhm.
And partly because I was actually listening to stuff, partly I didn't want people approaching me asking for, sometimes they did anyway, but
Yeah.
but yeah, no, like it was just so funny. I would always, like, if I was listening to music, I felt like I was in a music video, like walking down the streets of New York. I mean, it's an intimate experience.
Yeah, it is.
So I think that definitely colored my experience of radio rentals, that I'm listening to it.
Yeah.
It's right in my ear. And then they'll say the creepiest thing. And it's just like, ugh.
Yeah. No, I think I told you there's an episode, it might be even like the very first episode. And I was like, I had my earphones in and I was getting ready for work. And there's a part where like a man is like trying to talk to somebody through a window.
Yes.
And the way they had the guy's voice, like he was like, "Can I talk to you?" Like just whispering, but they did this kind of like echo, and it gave me chills in a like, terrifying way. Anyway.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I would say that most of those stories are not like terrifying.
No.
They're unsettling, I guess is a good word, or curious, because some of them, they're these personal experiences of people that can't be explained, basically.
Yes, right.
And so, and we all have those stories. So there's something about that that's so intriguing and so human.
Yeah.
That we kind of latch onto these things that we can't explain, and
Totally.
and want to tell them over and over again and find out if other people have had that or similar experiences. So I think that's what I love about it the most.
Yeah.
Just that storytelling connection aspect.
Definitely. Me too.
Well, thank you guys. That's all I have.
Of course.
And you know what? I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time we've had a masculine voice on this.
It is.
So.
Oh, you mean me?
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Which it was not there was no intention in that at all, but
no, you're the first man we've had on the show. Yeah.
Yes. That's awesome.
Oh goodness.
But
this day on Love Your Shelf.
Yeah. Well, I know we skipped a week, but we'll be back next week. As we always promise.
We'll promise it every week.
Yeah, we sure do. But yeah, so come out and see us for the big read. You'll see all three of us. We're going to be all over town.
Oh yeah.
And doing all kinds of fun stuff. So get involved.
Yeah, we'll see you then.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.